That's a shame. Welcome back to another instalment of my engine swap series, this time more fuel system. If you haven't seen any of these videos before, go and check out the playlist on my channel and have a look through, get caught up with where we're at now with the engine swap on the Mini. While you're there, if there's anything else on my channel takes your fancy, go and have a look. I've done all sorts of videos. I've done work on the A-Series engine, I've rebuilt the car, there's loads of videos there, go and check them out. Since the last episode where we went through some of the fuel system, I've spent a lot of time wiring the car and finishing off the fuel system to the point now I've got the engine running. So to start with, before we go any further with me boring on, I'll show you the rest of the fuel system. So the first change since last time is I fitted a SPI fuel tank, courtesy of my friend Alex Hart, got that for me. And then I've got my feed and return lines on there. It's those two that I got the wrong way round previously. That's the wiring. Now this is back to front. The black wire is the positive and the red wire is the negative. I need to sort that out, and that black wire just loops through the car not neatly. So those feed and return lines disappear off down there. They go through the floor. I haven't actually made any extra holes through the floor yet. I need to get that breather out of the car. So then, as before, those rubber lines come down there. I'm going to replace that metal hard line, that steel one, the feed, with a better pipe, because that's not in very good condition and doesn't route very nicely. So that's the fuel line at that end of the car. Now at this end of the car, as before, you can see the fuel lines coming up here. That's the original fuel line down there. I don't know if you can see that clearly. That was the original feed line. That's now connected to the return. So then this is the feed, which comes up here. Obviously I need to tidy that away somewhere like that, to this fuel filter, which is going to sit on the bulkhead just there. I need to get a bracket for that. I've seen a nice one, courtesy of Alex Hart again. Then that comes out of that fuel filter. This is 8mm hose, comes into an adapter to 10mm hose, because the fitting on the fuel rail just down there is a 10mm barb. So then that goes onto the fuel rail just there, and then goes into the fuel rail, feeds the injectors, and onto the return line just there, which is a 6mm ID hose, and onto the 6mm pipe down there. And that's the fuel system plumbed up. This over here, I've got the relays. One of those is for, I forget which is which, but one's for the ECU power and one is for the fuel pump. Now the fuel pump wire is this, that sends the feed to the pump to power on from that relay, which goes to this black wire, it runs all the way through the car to the boot. Now this relay only goes live when the engine is cranking or running. So in order to prime the system initially, I had to connect the laptop and activate the relay through the laptop software to prime the fuel system. Now obviously that's not ideal. If the engine's running every day, there's not going to be much pressure drop, but if the car sits for a couple of weeks, the pressure is going to drop. So I may wire in a switch just to prime the fuel system before starting up. I apologise if I've covered most of that in the last video, or some of it. It's nice to have a little bit of a recap. I have a few clips to show you now that I took with my phone to send to my friends on WhatsApp. They're not the best quality and they're in portrait mode, but here they are. I did have fuel pressure, but it's dropped off. But watch this. This is fun. That was exciting, wasn't it? Do you ever wonder when you're doing an engine swap How you know if the ECU's got any fault codes? You put little LEDs in. You have one for OBD codes and one for vauxhall specific codes. Now that vauxhall specific one, if you take the key, the immobiliser chip away, it will start flashing. Any minute now it will start flashing because the key's not there. Well, it won't. Might just make me look silly. Maybe I have to try and start the car for it to start flashing. But the key's not there, so it can't detect it. Let's try and start the car. Now if I turn the ignition back off and then stick the key in the immobiliser pickup, I can just balance that down there. Key in the immobiliser thingy, ignition on, and that one should go out at some point. I can't remember if it goes out when the engine starts or if it goes out while the ignition's on. I think it's after the engine's started, so you can see it's not flashing now because the key's present. So that's why I bought two of those LEDs, so I can hide them both at the side of the thingy, as long as I remember which one's which. To start with, when I first tried to fire up the engine, I had some problems getting it to run. I got the feed and return lines back to front on the fuel pump. I still have a few things to tidy up. I need to mount the fuel filter, clip up the hoses and tidy up the wiring. The wiring is very temporary to the pump at the moment. That needs sorting out permanently. As you may have noticed, I've started to reassemble the front end and get the front end mounted back on the car. I needed to do that at this point so that I could assess my alternator mounting and other bracketry and stuff that I've got going on. I found that that was quite a useful thing to do because the front end doesn't fit where I had the alternator fitted, and one of the brace bars I'd mounted that interfered with the front end. So I'm glad I did that so I could work out what changes I need to make to those items. Some of the changes I need to do: I need to remount the alternator, I need to remake the driver's side brace bar, and I've got some work to do in the front edge of the subframe. I've had to make some modifications and move the engine mount slightly, which I'll show you in the next video. I needed to do that as well to be able to mount the radiator suitably. So the next video I'm going to include bits about mounting the radiator, remaking the alternator bracket, the exhaust system and plumbing up the cooling system. If you've enjoyed this video, give it a like, consider subscribing, go and have a look at my other videos, see if there's anything else you like and have a watch of those. I've also got an Instagram account dedicated to this car, this little blue Mini. I'll put a link in the description below. I've also been putting a few little videos in between posting YouTube videos on TikTok, so go and check those out. I'll put a link below to that as well. If you've got any questions or any comments about this video, stick them in the comments section and I always reply to all of the comments. Thanks very much for watching and I'll see you again very soon.